I'm Bill Pack, and I'm an automotive art photographer. Got started about 5 years ago in this new venture. Did about 20 years of advertising in San Francisco. And it was in San Francisco that I learned a lot about lighting and design and worked with some amazing art directors and designers, kind of help create my style and my lighting. And it's light, design, and texture that really make an image that has a lasting effect. Apple Computer was my first client. I'm going to age myself here a bit. It was before Jobs got thrown out of the company, and then did some next computer work, and then back to Apple again. I did a lot of food photography, Domani Foods. Did work with Levi's. Ran the gamut on high tech and food. Before I went into advertising, I went to school at the Brooks Institute in Santa Barbara. Originally went to be a portrait photographer, and have to go through a whole year of classes before you get into your major. And I took my first portrait class, and I said, this is not for me. So then found their commercial photography course was called illustration. So it was photography illustration. From there, it just worked for me. So that's kind of the basis. And now it's interesting that I'm coming back to cars. In a sense, I'm doing portraits of the cars, or even if you really look at them and the lines in the cars, you kind of see a little sense and emotion of the designers. So in a weird way, it's like photographing cars that are portraits of the original designers. There were several influencers, other photographers that influenced me early on. It was Richard Avedon. There was, of course, Annie Leibovitz, Robert Mapplethorpe, Herb Ritts, and Irving Penn. Their work was very stylized. Lighting was really important, but it brought out an emotion, and their lighting and styling and composition brought out the emotions of the people and their subject matters. Irving Penn, I loved his, where he'd just take for frozen food and then just put it on a set and then photographed it. And it was just so cool. So it's like those influences directed me on lighting, composition, and then how I'm working with the cars today. Because I see these cars, it's more sculpture. It's a piece of art, something that should be hanging in a museum or a gallery. So when I look at the subject, I think through how I want to design it, what I want the lighting to be like, and what I want the final product to be like, or the final presentation, and envision that hanging in a gallery or a museum or in a collector's home. I will then light it from that direction. And in San Francisco, I spent a lot of time working, exploring different lighting techniques. And even though I was doing still lifes, small areas, I took that same lighting concept, painting with light, and then brought that to cars, so that I can layer in the highlights. I can accentuate the areas of the car that I want you to pay attention to, and then put into shadows the areas that I don't want you to, but it creates an emotion and a sense that there's something else going on here, because you look at the images a lot and you don't necessarily first think it's a car. You see these interesting lines and designs, and then you go through and explore it, and then it's like, oh, okay, that's a car. And so I'm working on bringing the art world and the automotive enthusiast world together and kind of blend those together and create something that will appeal to both people. After I finished advertising, and I spent a few years figuring out what it is I wanted to do next. Got involved in doing motion graphic films and doing some other things, and I was behind the computer a lot and miss being out creating imagery, photography, as opposed to motion graphics. So it took a lot of time, figured out who the potential audience would be, what subject matter drew my attention, what would it be that I was passionate about, and that I could create something that was different than what everybody else was offering. And cars caught my attention. From San Francisco, moved out to Atlanta, and there's a big car show out there called Caffeine and Octane, and it's now the largest monthly car show in the country. 2,500 cars, 10,000, 15,000 people show up first Sunday of every month. And so I went to that, met a few people, met some people with some interesting cars, kind of talked them into meeting me at a big warehouse out in kind of a sketch part of town, and bring their car in and turn all the lights out and let me spend the day with it. And so just build on that. So I was kind of testing the concept, seeing how collectors responded to it, and then through an encouragement of some friends, put together an Instagram page. And from that, caught the attention of a startup auction company up in New York, and they wanted to brand their auction company around my imagery. And so they sent me around the country shooting a bunch of different cars in a really short period of time. And so I had to get my gear so it was mobile and I could go in and out and get set up in a really quick manner. So we did that for about a year, and they moved on to other things. But it connected me with people that I couldn't have gotten connected to before. Wayne Carini was one of them. He has a television show called Chasing Classic Cars. So I've gotten to know Wayne over the years. And slowly, as you're at the different Concours events with the cars, get to know different people, word of mouth kind of goes around. And then from the imagery that I had, I put together my first book. My company's name is V12 Enterprises, so we named it V12, Automotive Art Volume 1. So we have Volume 2 in the can, ready to go. So that book I had down at Amelia Island last year, which is a big Concours in March, and museum out in Phoenix saw my work, saw how I worked with going to owners' locations and shooting the cars there. So that led to being commissioned by them to do the book for the Legends of Speed exhibition, which goes through March 15, 2020. Kind of have this love-hate thing with digital. To me, I saw the very front edge of it when digital backs were first coming out for 4x5 cameras, and to where we are today, where an iPhone camera is much better resolution and quality than these big backs that we had back early on. And so we kind of went through this wave where digital, I think, separated people from photographs. There are a lot of pictures, and to me, pictures and photographs are two different things. And photographs you frame and you have prints and you hang on the walls. Pictures are just snapshots. And I think people are used to looking at pictures as content today, so they just kind of go through Instagram feeds or Facebook feeds. They're not absorbing the imagery, or there's not the imagery to absorb that are really photographs. And print, I think, is really important because I think there's a movement back to the tactile, feeling things, touching them. In a print you can hold. You can, depending on the mount or how it's delivered in a case or a slip case or whatever it is, process of just opening up a box, pulling out a print, feeling that in your hands and looking at it. It's an experience and a feeling that comes into you that you just don't get with digital. And digital is here to stay, has its place, but I think with like the makers movement that started in the game, where handcrafted things are becoming really important again, print, I think, is really important in that, so that you can have that experience with an image as opposed to just zooming by it. Feeling things is really important. One of the things that drew me into you guys is, one, how great you've been to work with on my crazy schedule here that we have. But connecting with Britt and what she brings to it as well, because quality work is like that stuff never goes out of style. And if it's a quality photograph or a quality, just a mat that's cut or quality museum case that's put together, when people pick those things up, they recognize the difference and they feel something's different. You know, they can pick up other items that look really cool and they're kind of flimsy, but then you pick up something that has a lot of quality to it, and then it's like, oh, okay, this is different. What's about this? So it kind of brings, you're more intrigued by it and you want to go deeper into it instead of just picking up, okay, cool, and then just moving on to the next. And I love working with, collaborating with people, of coming up with different ways to present my work to people, so that as they're going by, or they see something, or it's in a client's office and they pick it up and look at it, they want to explore it and go through it. And it's not just, you know, a single image on a glass frame sitting on a desk or something, but it's like there's this process of opening and going through. I think those are experiences people will be drawn to, are drawn to. I don't think people necessarily know that's what they want until they get into it and they go, oh, I like this. This feels good. The first thing you need to figure out is, what are you passionate about? Doesn't matter what it is. Don't think about the market. Don't think about how you're going to sell it, who you're going to sell it to. What are you passionate about? Is there a subject matter? Is it people? Is it portraits? Is it location shooting? Is it cars? Whatever it is, what are you passionate about? And so if you take what you're passionate about and then you photograph it the way you want to, and you don't worry about how you think somebody wants it, do it for yourself. People will notice the difference. If I tried to think about shooting my cars the way people want it, I wouldn't be going down the direction that I am, and I'd be one of 1,000 people out there doing the exact same thing. So after that, you've got that established. From a technical standpoint, put your camera on a tripod. As soon as you put that camera on a tripod, you have to think about composition, you have to think about lighting, you have to think about point of view. Everything else changes when you put it on a tripod. It slows the process down. Digital today, it's, I'll fix it in post-production, or I'll do this, or I'll do that in post. I'll clean it up here, I'll add some filters and whatever. I try to create everything that I can in my shot. So when you look at my shot, I do take the car out from the background and add my own background in, but the lighting on the car and everything is lit the way it was. I did it in camera. Not that that's not necessarily how everybody needs to do it, but getting that camera off the tripod is really important. Then once you have a body of work that you just feel really good about, then go out and present that to the world. And don't let people tell you you should do this or you should do that. Do what you're passionate for. It'll take longer to build that clientele and that audience because it's something different that they're not used to. But then in the long run, you'll be much happier because then you're doing things, people are coming to you for what you do, not coming to you telling you what they want. And those are two really different things.